Hi. Well, North Korea. I know what you must be thinking. This is like the most likable country in the international community, right? So what I want to talk about today is something I'm very passionate about. I've been working on this issue for quite a number of years now. And I think what's extraordinary about North Korea is that there's so much written about this country. It's poor, it's 30 million people. There's not a lot to write about poor countries. But there's so much stuff in the media. There's a lot of analysts who dedicate their lives to analyzing and peddling any rumor that comes out of the country. And at the same time, I feel that this is one of the least understood countries in the world. And it's least understood not just because we lack information, but also because we kind of view it from this lens in which we have very strong biases and socially reinforced stereotypes of the country. And what I want to do today is to kind of paint a different image of North Korea, one that we have learned about through workshops we have done training North Koreans in business and economics. And the importance of this different image is that I think in kind of looking at it in this different lens, what I want to say is that there are ways to change the country, and I want to convince you there are things that we can do and must do to work with the people in the country to help promote positive change. So I think just to kind of like step back a little bit, in terms of when we think about North Korea, kind of what are the images that come to your mind? I'm guessing that you're thinking of something like this. Are you thinking of this guy? Maybe you're thinking about, how about this guy? Or maybe this guy? And maybe today you might be thinking about this young guy. So, it's very amazing that this is a country of 30 million people, but very often, the narrative of the country revolves around just one or two or a very small group of people in the country. That's kind of how we view it. Another image that you might have is this.
More oneness, less categories. Open hearts, no strategy. Decisions based upon faith and not fear. People who live right now and right here. I want a wisdom that wise men reveal. I want more.
Yep. So that is a clip from what they call the mass games in North Korea. It's this annual ritual in which you have 100,000 North Koreans coming together to perform mass acrobatics. And for the government, they use it as a platform to showcase what they believe is like single-mindedness among the North Koreans, unity, solidarity. Whereas if you're a detractor, you look at it and you say, wow, that's an example of this mindless conformity in North Korea. And so the thing is that that's kind of how we view it, right? There's all these people performing in unison, they think the same way, they behave the same way. So not too long ago, I think a couple of years back, there was a very popular book written about North Korea. And there's this review of the book by polemicist Christopher Hitchens, and he writes this. Unlike previous racist dictatorships, the North Korean one has actually succeeded in producing a sort of new species, starving and stunted dwarfs, living in the dark, kept in perpetual ignorance and fear, brainwashed into the hatred of others, regimented and coerced and inculcated with a death cult. It's a very extreme view, and it kind of captures, I think, part of this, we internalize this view of North Koreans as being brainwashed. And I think this kind of captures like, a very strong lens that we tend to view North Korea with. So if you accept kind of these images and these assumptions, like how, what can we do about North Korea? If we see them as like mindless automatons, we kind of see it as a country where, the narrative of the country just revolves around one or two people. We kind of believe that North Koreans are not able to make their own choices. In fact, they're not able to make the right choices. And so change in the country has to come externally and be imposed on North Koreans. And that's a very popular view among a lot of analysts. Again, going back to Christopher Hitchens, he says that, if we believe that this is North Korea, there isn't any point in talking to North Korea because they are just maybe rational in their sense, but they're irrational from the point of view of everyone else. And I think that's a very pessimistic worldview. So I'm going to talk a little bit more about instead, how we see North Korea and how the interactions we have with it have kind of given us a different view and something that I believe is a lot more optimistic. So as I mentioned, we do training programs in North Korea. And I have to say, before I started working with younger North Koreans, I held a lot of the similar stereotypes of North Koreans. So my first trip there, I met a North Korean university student. And she was attached to our group because she was there to practice her English with us. And I asked her kind of like, what do you want to do after you graduate from university? And she says this: I want to be in business to show that women can be great business leaders. And I was like, wow, this is crazy. Are you sure you're from North Korea? And it's not crazy in the sense that what she said was very extraordinary. It was more that it was so ordinary and so human and something that I believe a lot of people can relate to that that really shocked me. It's something where you can see that, hey, this is an individual, she has her own aspirations, and I can relate to those aspirations. And what are some of these aspirations? Some of the North Koreans, when we interview them for scholarship programs, they say, I want to stand local and see global. They want opportunities to interact with the rest of the world, whether it's through business, trade, education. And I think it's very exciting. And kind of that set me on this path of doing education projects in North Korea. And I think it's a very exciting time to be in North Korea at this point in time, because there's a lot of social and economic changes happening in the country that a lot of young people are very excited about it. They're a bit bewildered by all the changes. But at the same time, they see opportunity to do things that they would have been unthinkable years ago in North Korea. One of the North Koreans we've met told us, I've read so much about finance, about all these new concepts, I want to make them happen. And I think that's reflective of the view of a lot of younger North Koreans that we have met. And it's interesting too, because all these changes, you can kind of see it on the ground. It's starting from, from a very, in a sense, a very antiquated platform. But at the same time, you can see some of these changes. When we go in there, people would tell us like, hey, can you do more workshops on business, on economics? Could you work with us to help us set up a business? If you're in the hotel room and you say like, hey, it's too cold in the room, sometimes like, the next day the North Koreans come in like, oh, you said cold? Do you want to invest in a mine? So you get a lot of those, it's a fascinating place to be in at the moment. And I think people are right to be excited about it. So I've talked a lot about similarities with the North Koreans, similarities in terms of aspirations, in terms of the desire to innovate, to interact with other people and cultures and learn from them. But at the same time, I also want to focus us on differences, because there are differences with North Koreans. So I remember talking to a lady, and she said this: I was armed with a powerful weapon to guarantee victory in battle, my gun of English. I'm like, wow, that's a very scary way of saying that. I want to learn English because English is a language of globalization. And I think in pulling up this point, what I want to say is that, we might not agree with North Koreans on everything, and we really shouldn't be. But then when we engage with them and debate with them, we need to be able to recognize their thoughts as being legitimate, and to engage them at that level, instead of just saying that, oh, you're brainwashed, you're ignorant, and therefore your point doesn't count to us. And I think that tends to be the way, we tend to, especially a lot of people who look at policy issues, tend to view North Korea with that kind of lens. And so I believe there's a different path to change in North Korea. And I think this is based on two premises. One of the premises is that we have to believe that North Koreans have aspirations, they're individuals, and we can relate to those aspirations. And we also have to believe that they are intelligent people who are able to think about what's best for their own society. And when we are able to see past the stereotypes and kind of see them in this light, I believe we can identify North Koreans as partners who have the knowledge of their own society and they have the right ideas. And we're able to work with them to tackle the challenges of like poverty, isolation, or rights in the country. So I think to kind of cap it all off, I think the main message I want you to walk away with is that, it is important to look past these stereotypes to see the individuals in North Korea. And once you get to that stage, you can say that, there are new innovative options of working with these people to drive positive change. Thank you very much.